Toward the end of the Middle Ages, a large flowering of culture called the Renaissance began in Italy and spread throughout Europe. Renaissance is a French word that means rebirth. The Renaissance got its name from a rebirth in interest in classical art and learning that took place from the 1300s through the 1500s CE. Although there was no sudden break with the Middle Ages, the Renaissance changed many aspects of people's lives over time. What was the Renaissance? The Renaissance began in Italy in the mid-1300s and spread to other parts of Europe in the 1400s and 1500s. The Renaissance began with the rediscovery of the classical world of ancient Greece and Rome. After the fall of Rome in the 5th century CE, classical culture was never entirely forgotten. The Roman Catholic Church helped keep knowledge of ancient times alive by copying documents that survived from the classical period. Still, this knowledge reached relatively few people during most of the Middle Ages. In the late Middle Ages, merchants and crusaders brought back goods and ideas from the East, including classical learning that had been preserved in the Byzantine Empire. Europeans also read classical works that came to them by way of Muslim scholars. This flow of ideas led to a rediscovery of Greek and Roman culture. Scholars started collecting and reading ancient manuscripts from monasteries. Artists and architects studied classical statues and buildings. The renewed interest in classical culture led to the great flowering of art and learning that we call the Renaissance. We can trace the link between the classical world and the Renaissance by looking at art. Let's explore some of the characteristics of art from classical, medieval, and Renaissance times. Classical art. The classical period lasted from about 500 BCE to 500 CE. The classical artists of Greek and Rome created sculptures, pottery, murals, and mosaics. The purpose of much of their art was to show the importance of people and leaders, as well as gods and goddesses. Here are additional characteristics of classical art. Artists valued balance and harmony. Figures were lifelike, but often idealized, more perfect than in real life. Figures were nude or draped in togas or robes. Bodies looked attractive and motion was believable. Faces were calm and without emotion. Scenes showed either heroic figures or real people doing tasks from daily life. In paintings, there was little background or sense of perspective. For example, showing people and objects bigger or smaller to make them look closer or farther away. Medieval art. The medieval period lasted from about 500 to 1300 CE. Medieval artists created stained glass windows, sculptures, illuminated manuscripts, paintings, and tapestries. The purpose of much of medieval art was to teach religion to people who could not read or write. Here are additional characteristics of medieval art. Most art was religious, showing Jesus, saints, people from the Bible, and so on. Important figures in paintings were shown as larger than others around them. Figures looked stiff with little sense of movement. Figures were fully dressed in stiff-looking clothing. Faces were serious and showed little feeling. Painted figures were two-dimensional or flat. Paint colors were bright. Backgrounds were mostly one color, often gold. Renaissance art. The Renaissance lasted from the 1300s to the early 1600s. Renaissance artists created sculptures, murals, drawings, and paintings. The aim of much Renaissance art was to show the importance of people and nature, not just religion. Here are additional characteristics of Renaissance art. Artists showed religious and non-religious scenes. Art reflected a great interest in nature. Figures were lifelike and three-dimensional, reflecting an increasing knowledge of anatomy. Bodies looked active and were shown moving. Figures were either nude or clothed. Scenes showed real people doing everyday tasks. Faces expressed what people were thinking. Colors were shown responding to light. Paintings were often symmetrical, balanced with the right and left sides having similar or identical elements. Full background showed perspective. If you compare these lists, you can see that Renaissance artists were inspired more by classical art than medieval art. Like classical artists, Renaissance painters and sculptors depicted subjects that were not always religious. They tried to show people as lifelike and engaged in everyday activities. They also tried to capture the way things look in the real world. Before I get to your assignment, I want to let you know the password for today is Mustang. Once again, the password for today is Mustang. Okay, here's your assignment. What you're going to do is, you're going to look at the next 8 slides. Any one of these 8 slides could be a piece of art from classical, medieval, or Renaissance. What you need to do is, you need to look at each one of these slides and decide which one of those 3 types of art they are. If you need help, you need to go back through the previous slides and listen to my narration again to get ideas on which one it is. Once you figure out which one it is, you'll go to the Google Doc and you'll write in there which one it is, and then you'll give me 2 reasons why you think that it is what it is. Okay? Good luck, and I'll see you tomorrow.